Well, hello there. How's it going? As always, Thursday, 11 a.m., time for another RCS Live. I'm Nate Mumford, Director of Sales Engineering here at RCS, hanging out with you today talking about GSelector's multi-station features and attributes as part of its enterprise solution. Really looking forward to this one today, talking about all the ways, ready for it? Working smarter, not harder, right? That's the idea here. So let's dive into some housekeeping over here. Let's see here. Don't forget, we have a full archive over at rcsworks.com/rcs-live. There you can check out all of the past videos we've done, and it's a really great resource. Don't forget, there's a written blog portion to all of these. So as you're going through each archive, maybe you were like, that might pertain to me, but it might not pertain to me. So you can read up on it first and then decide if that is something you want to watch and then dive into that video over there. Don't forget to check out your backup paths, take your data exchanges, and as always, looking for beta testers as well. GSelector 5.1, you can see here, is coming out very, very shortly. Zeta 522.1 is coming out now at the end of November. If you want to test out those latest and greatest features, get your hands on it now. You can reach out to myself. You can reach out to your local RCS contact. I'll put you in touch there, and we'll get you part of that great, new test environment there too. And by the way, if you want to do let's just say you're a larger client and you want to do, let's say, a test environment, reach out to us. We can work with you and see what we can do to get you a test environment so you can test out those latest and greatest features and how you specifically utilize those features in there as well. Let's see here, going through. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. I have my chat open here. So we have, let's see, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter Live, all of that good stuff. And as always, if I'm forgetting something, let us know and we'll jump on that platform as well. Let's see here. Hiring still. I think there's a couple jobs still open. That's over at rcsworks.com. I think it's /careers. Go to the About Us and Career page and check those out. And I'm trying to think anything else I'm missing here. Studio Spotlight, hashtag Studio Spotlight. You can email marketing@rcsworks.com for that as well. So, all right, let's dive right in. Let's talk about GSelector and its enterprise solution. So the first thing I want to kind of talk about here is on this very top left, these are all the stations inside of our GSelector database. Remember, there's typically a market by market GSelector server, and all of the stations reside inside of those servers. If you have, let's say, a very unique setup, we're having a lot of users now investigating like a virtual machine and having essentially all of their stations residing in one virtual machine. Everybody has access to that machine. The biggest thing you have to realize, it's really all about how many users you have in the software with how many stations and what type of scheduling are you doing, right? Concurrent things. Really, it's same thing as with Zeta. When you look at hardware specs and looking at, let's say, SQL Express versus SQL Standard, we're talking about the number of users and the usage concurrently at any given time, those CPU spikes. That's what we have to discuss. And we have a lot of users who are doing that, right? Because the idea is that, hey, listen, I want to have my staff be flexible wherever they are in the US or out overseas, and I want to have a nice ease access to there, right? The other thing I will say, too, is what we found for our users that have virtual machines and big, beefy servers, just be aware, depending on where you are and your local network connection, that does play a big role in this. We have seen some users do kind of a middleman with AWS and use kind of like terminal sessions. I'm forgetting the name off the top of my head right now, but there's many different ways you can do this. And we do have users that are really streamlining their operations into one centralized server, like a format center, if you will, right? So again, first things first, each market, its own GSelector server. We have all the stations residing inside of that server. So I can toggle between stations, just clicking, working left to right. Remember, GSelector is a linear workflow, which means if I'm in the library working on the song metadata cart right here, jump to the goals tab, jump back to the library, it's going to leave off right here where I left off. I can also do the same thing over in my stations as well, reopening back to the station in its original form. So I can go between stations and stations and stations. Now, I will tell you, one of the first things that really I gravitated as a program director utilizing GSelector back in the day were these kind of work smarter, not harder workflows. So for me personally, as a programmer, what I did is I had 4 radio stations. I had built one, well, I think it was 2 at the time on version 12, and it was just a very tedious workflow. And so what I did is I kind of have a fundamental philosophy when it comes to my programming, and then I kind of expand on it based on whatever the format dictates, right? So a gold-based station versus a current station, stuff like that. And so what I would do is it was very common for me to copy things across stations, right? And so, for example, things we're going to cover today is copying clocks. If you have a public affairs show that's running on all 4 of your stations, build it once, copy it across, activate that asset on all stations, and then, of course, you just do one task once, copy it 4 times, and you're done. I know a lot of our users really enjoy the MultiStation scheduler tool as well. There's all these great little tips and tricks inside of GSelector that's going to cater to how you want to interpret the software based on multiple stations in your enterprise environment. So the first thing we're going to discuss here today is going to be the global versus station-specific settings. Now, it might be hard to see from your video here, but there's a line. Yeah, you got to see it there. There's a line here right dead in the center. Anything to the left of this line is going to be a global setting. Anything to the right is going to be station-specific. But Nate, how would I know what is global versus station-specific? Want a really easy trick? What's the title of this song? Good for You, right? Is good for you ever going to change? Is that title ever going to change across stations? No. Now, over here on the right-hand side, now, aside from the fact that it says RCS Hot AC and station coding, what's the category of good for you, right? Now, question for you. What's going to be the category for a different station? It's obviously going to be different. Not everybody's going to be a power here. So if you're curious where that line is, think of title, think of category, boom. There's your separation between the two, right? So what you can do here is you can have global attributes. If I go over here to participants or attributes and I hit the edit, these are all global attributes. You can see here, these are all global. For example, Olivia Rodrigo is always going to be a vocal female, right? She's not going to be a vocal male on, let's say, the top 40 station and a vocal female on the RCS Hot AC station. It's not going to be that way. Whereas if I do something like sound code, for example, so I'll close this, go to my station attributes on the right-hand side, you can see here I have things like sound code, because a sound code on a top 40 station might be pop, but a sound code on a hot AC station might be top 40 or wherever you want to have that sound code be. Now, I'll be the first one to tell you, me personally, I really enjoy the separation of church and state. So when it comes to the enterprise solution, me personally as a programmer, I kept a majority of my things as station-specific settings. And those are done over here in the setup over here, as well as the, oh, it's been a while, features, attributes. There we go. Setup, station, features, attributes. You can see they're global or they're station-specific. We typically design this with you and part of the onboarding process, but if you want to change it, you always could. Just be aware, depending on where you are, these values might not carry over. Think about it intentionally. If I have, let's say, content is a global attribute, right? And I carry it over to a station specific, we're not going to carry those attributes over because by definition, you're telling GSelector, I don't want what the other stations have as this attribute. I want to create my own. So as with all changes in GSelector, you're making a big change, take a backup. If you want some clarification, reach out to RCS Support. We're here to help you out any way we can. So again, global attributes versus station-specific attributes, it's really up to you what you want to do, right? From there, there is the MultiStation tab right here. So library, song, MultiStation. We have essentially, remember, the concept of active and inactive songs in GSelector. So the typical example is like an alternative song that carries over to Hot AC or Top 40. You might want to carry over some of those attributes. So all you do there is just say, hey, you know what? I'm going to activate this on my station. I'm going to copy the attributes from my RCS Hot AC. I'm going to put it in my local category, which is new music, and I'm going to save my changes here if I wanted to, right? And so if you do have a lot of cooks in the kitchen and you have a lot of stations in your enterprise GSelector environment, work smarter, not harder. Take those attributes, copy them over, and then further adjust them if you want. Again, with those global or station-specific attributes. I'll hit cancel on there. And let's keep on chugging along here, and let's move on to the clocks tab. So remember, all throughout the software, there's many different tools to copy to other stations. Some of these are relatively new. So if you're kind of stuck on an old build like 4.7.1, you might not see some of these. I'm on 5.1, which I believe has the copy priority lists, but we're slowly introducing these throughout the previous version. So just in case you don't see this, reach out, grab an upgrade, you'll be good to go. So you can see this icon right here, copy clocks to other stations. It's pretty straightforward. Select the clocks you want here, copy the stations you want there, and then, of course, the entry types on this side, right? And they will copy over, which is pretty cool. Just be aware, the only gotcha inside of this is, remember, GSelector calls for song category groups in the clocks, not the categories. So if you're going to copy over the clock, we will create the song or link category group, but we will not create the category or move the songs into that category. So just be aware when you move those things over and you copy those clocks, think of the public affairs shows, right? Let's just say we have a category group, public affairs, right? We'll create the song category group, public affairs, but then it's up to you to create the category and then put the songs into that category. But as you just saw with the multi-song and multi-station changer, you can just quickly move those things over pretty quickly and pretty easily. So again, work smarter, not harder. Take these clocks, copy them over, right? So what I did personally for a lot of my current stations is I copied these over and then I started tweaking the clocks ever so slightly across the board. So really helpful tool there, copy clocks to other stations. And if only, I don't know, there was another field here under goals and priorities and definition, is there? Oh, wait, there is copy priorities to other stations as well. Very similar behavior, similar window. I have my priority lists, I have my stations, and I have here what priority types am I copying over. And by the way, yes, a really cool little copy function here. If I select the bands and I copy them over, I will also copy over the segue bands. So think about that for a second. Think about if you have, let's say, a station that's like, I don't know, a hot AC in a top 40, and you have similar vibes in the sense that, like, don't play, I don't know, we have a couple things here, guitar pop and a guitar pop and a guitar pop, right? Something like that. You can copy that priority list over. And then all of a sudden, you can have some really granular options here. So real full disclosure, I love separating my segue bands. I've covered this in past videos. The classic example there for me is you have a top 40 station. If I have a pop into a pop into a pop, that might be a breakable rule. Whereas a pop, pop, pop into a fourth pop, that's an unbreakable rule. I like separating those personally. And that's a setting in the setup. I've covered that in past videos. If only there was an archive for you to check out over at rcsworks.com/RCS-live, right? And there's a great video back there too. So what you can do here is essentially, now imagine, what if you were building a brand new station for, let's say, a sister cluster, right? What you can do there is you could build the station on here. And of course, how do you build it? You can duplicate an existing one. You can create a blank database and copy assets over. The world is your oyster, depending on how you want to design this. Again, me personally, I know as a programmer, I had a foundation of how I wanted my stations to sound. And then, of course, I tweak them down the road. So I might go and say, for one station, I'm going to build a blank database and copy over these priority lists and make some tweaks. Or if I have a lot of min-sep values, like vocalist min-sep, song min-sep, and stuff like that, I might duplicate a station, change the name of that station, make some adjustments, copy my clocks over, whatever it may be, and then take that. And don't forget, we do have those data exchanges and backups. Pending on what you want to do, you can do a data exchange send and do a specific station here if you wanted to, right? And then just import that into the next enterprise library. The only thing there is just remember your media IDs. Things like that matter. If you have a Zeta database as well, we want to match on some of those IDs and those audio. Typically, we recommend doing is if you have a Zeta and GSelector system, you're trying to bring in a station to an existing environment, Zcast the audio over first, and then from there, build the GSelector station, make sure they're matching and all that good stuff, and then you're good to go, right? So any questions there, by the way, as always, reach out to RCS Support. We're here to help for you. We'll make sure we just double check and make those gotchas and identify those for you. But again, as you can see, there's a lot of tools here to make your life a lot easier. Copying priority lists, copying clocks, taking a song that's already in your environment, copying the attributes, and then activating it on a sister station. And there's also, by the way, a scheduler here as well. Scheduler MultiStation. I know we have a lot of users that have like 10 plus stations in their environment. And the idea there is, and don't forget, GSelector will take a couple minutes to schedule a log. Very, very common stuff. And of course, if let's just say it takes 2 minutes to schedule a log and I'm scheduling, I don't know, 10 logs, well, it's going to take what, like 20 minutes, something like that, right? So just be aware that it's going to do what you want to do. If you're scheduling 10 logs, it's going to schedule 10 logs. So maybe like the joke was, I was talking, I think it was Norway is the users that were doing it. They have like 10 to 50 stations, something like that. They schedule their 50 stations and they're like, I just go get a cup of coffee and I go back to the break room, come back in and it's done. Stuff like that, right? Why are you sitting going each individual station, this station schedule, this station schedule, this station schedule? Unless you're like me and you have like 15 different windows open and you're just kind of clicking along the way. Again, work smarter, not harder, right? So you can see here in our MultiStation, I can select all my stations here on the left-hand side, pick my date ranges and schedule. Also note, by the way, if I'm not mistaken, there's a publication status. I thought there was. Oh yeah, right here, publication status. So if you are an S3 publisher and you're doing logs for, let's say, an AC, hot AC top 40, and you want to just, make sure everybody's, locked or something like that for your S3, you just click on there, hit set, and that's going to go the same exact thing, but for publication status. Really, really cool little tool there as well. And then finally, I thought for today, we would talk about the conflict checker. I just got a demo database here, so I don't have really true examples to show you, but you can play around with this. It's pretty cool. There's this conflict checker. The idea is that I take all of these stations here, and I'm going to look at every single one of those schedules and look for overlaps. Now, for me, back in my old PD days, I had an alternative station, and I had a powerhouse, heritage, top 40 hot AC hybrid. Think of songs like Mr. Brightside and Don't Speak. Those are across both of those formats. And worst case scenario, you don't want somebody in your market going to your P1, hearing Don't Speak, or Mr. Brightside is probably a better example, or 21 Pilots, something like that. You don't want, or Billie Eilish these days, even better. You don't want to have a user going to P1 and looking at and saying, okay, well, there's Mr. Brightside, going to P2, there's Mr. Brightside, and going to P3, and there's also Mr. Brightside. You don't want to do that. So if you do have a lot of stations with overlapping songs, first off, by the way, little pro tip here. What I did is I created an attribute under the content rule, and I purposely put I put a max per hour of 2 per hour with a min sep of 20 minutes because I didn't want to have a music sweep sound too similar to that of my top 40 station. So I only wanted if the songs overlapped, and I knew that from looking at, let's say, the library in advanced search, I would take all those songs, add the attribute in the multi-song changer, put in the values under the goals, balance, attributes, and then from there, I would essentially program my clocks so that, only 2 of the similar sounding songs could schedule at any given hour. And again, 20 minutes apart. So I can do, let's say, a 15 and then say a 35 and then a top of the hour and then maybe like a 25, something like that, right? But this is pretty cool because you can essentially say, find me based on these stations, the songs that are scheduling around the same exact time. What time? That's over here based on the settings. There's a custom time window. You can see there's an overlap, which is an actual position by position. The same hour. adjacent hour. So that's like, think of that as yesterday, same hour versus yesterday. So 11:59 versus 12:01. Those are two separate hours, but it's a similar kind of behavior. Or the custom time window, which is like, hey, for 5 hours here, make sure, or 5 minutes, make sure that these songs don't overlap. It's your choice. And then what are we looking at? You can get very granular. You can do artist, vocalist, album, title, song. It's up to you. If you have, let's say, a classic hits and a classic rock, you might not want to have two Journey records playing at the same exact time. In that case, you would grab the vocalist with a custom threshold there, search for those changes, and you can fix them. And there's 3 ways you can fix those changes, right? You can tell GSelector to fix them themselves. It will look at your setup stations in order, right? And it will adjust those based on priority. And again, just to kind of show you, I'll show you afterwards, but that's your station list under setup. And again, if you have your primary up there, it's going to change the secondary because the primary wants to lock that song in there. Or you can do fix interactively, which is as it finds it, you can pick one of the songs in order and say, nope, grab this one instead for this station and call it a day. Or the third thing is you don't actually have to fix anything. Once this report is here, go to File, do a print export, print it as a PDF or an Excel document, send that to whoever you want to do, and you can go from there. Because sometimes, let's be honest, there's things you care about, things you don't care about, right? That's the honest truth. So you might say like, hey, a Billie Eilish song is, I don't care if that's on my alternative and my Hot AC Top 40 because it's such a powerhouse artist, it's going to pop up. Whereas something very specific like No Doubts Don't Speak, yeah, that's going to stick out like a sore thumb on both an alternative and a top 40 station. I want to fix those, and I want to fix them live in real time interactively, or let GSelector say, here's the primary station, here's the secondary station, fix the secondary station, right? Stuff like that. So really, really cool stuff you can see here. Again, enterprise solutions. I'll do last call for questions here. I know there's a slight delay, so do last call for questions. Just to review, stations, enterprise solution, toggle between your stations, right? Go to your library, go to the multi-station tab here, and you make things active or inactive, copy attributes, put them in the new categories here. Go to your goals, priorities, copy these over across different stations, right? Including your segue bands. You can create those on the fly by copying your priority lists across the board. You can go to clocks definition. You can also copy those clocks right here. By the way, notice the brand new import XML clocks here. Ooh, fancy new 5.1 feature. Yeah, that's really cool. Or again, go to the scheduler and you can see there's multi-station. You can schedule each station at a time, fix the conflict checker, set your publication status. It's a really powerful tool there as well. And just to show you here, what I mean by station party lists, it's a station. Oh, it's been a while here. Where am I going here? Boom. Oh, it's tools, administration. This right here, up, down, if I'm not mistaken, right? I think that's the one. It's been a while. I'll find it here. There you go. That's it here. Tools, administration, security, organizations. This is the order of your priority lists for your stations. So, for example, in the multi-station conflict checker, top 40 is the primary, hot country is the secondary. So if I have a song on top 40 and the same song on hot country, if I want an automatic fix, it's going to replace the hot country. It is not going to touch the top 40 because that's higher in my organization list. I can always move these up or down right there. Again, increase station importance, decrease station importance. Just a couple little things there. Nothing too crazy. This window, by the way, aside from like that there and maybe the order, it's not too crazy. Don't feel like I have to fix my organization's lists unless you want a reorganized order list or something like that. Don't worry about it. It's totally fine. So let's see. Last call for questions here. Boom. We're going over here. Go to my chat. Paulo, you're good. Larry, Dave, good. Everybody good? Makes sense to me. Hey, we'll be back here next Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern time for another RCS Live. Looking forward. Don't forget the archive. Check your backups. You want to work for us? There's a lot of jobs available for you right now over our career page. And of course, become a beta user. Reach out to myself or a local RCS contact. Put you in touch with our beta user program and get your hands on the latest and greatest RCS products. So have a fantastic rest of your day. I'll see you next Thursday.